Okay, Sam. If there's nothing else for you, I think we're running slightly late, but it's not too much of an issue. Thanks a lot, Sam. As always, fantastic.
No problem at all. No problem at all.
I didn't realise you owned a flat in St Albans, actually. So
not anymore.
No, well, you say you should have stayed with us. But anyway, really excited to move on to Louise now. So Louise, you're very welcome. I know you haven't been on our call previously, but you're very welcome. And I'll hand over to you. If you can, are you able to share your?
Yeah, share my screen. Thank you very much, Chris. There you go. Can you see that?
I can see it perfectly. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me here today. I'm going to sort of plow on with the presentation. If you do have any questions at all, then please just jump in or ask me at the end, whichever you prefer. I tend to get into a bit of a flow, so unless if you desperately want to ask me something halfway through, you're very welcome to wave at me or shout at me if I don't see you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to talk to you tonight about finding some great deals from estate agents. I've got lots of case studies of my own that I'm going to talk you through as well, and some of the figures, some of the pictures. So tonight's talk, this is for you if you are just starting out in property. Hopefully some of the tips that I can give you, and I'm sort of sharing the journey that I've had, where I started, and which is quite a while ago now, and sort of where I am now. So hopefully some of these tips will help you, whether you're just starting out or literally whether you're already investing but just getting frustrated trying to find deals. I think it can go a little bit, when you're investing, sometimes the deals are a bit like buses. They come at once and then you just struggle and can't find anything anywhere, and it can get very, very frustrating. So I was just going to give you some tips to hopefully give kind of a bit more of a constant deal flow. Do you want to build in some equity from the start? I think when you're investing, you need to safeguard yourself. You need to build in that equity from the beginning. And as we were just talking about, if the tides do turn, property is not a liquid business. It's not something that you can sell the next day. It's not like stocks and shares where you can, get in and out very, very quickly. It takes months to buy a property. It could take months to sell a property. So by building in equity from the start, you really are safeguarding yourself going forward as well. So that is just really finding the deals and making sure that whether it's a flip or whether you're going to do a HMO or whether you're going to, I don't know, just have a single let or service accommodation, you're just going to safeguard yourself in any market if you can build in that equity. That said, I'm going to actually talk to you about one of the HMOs where we did pay the market value, and with the rent and the ROI works out really well. I will tell you about that on a bit later. So who wants agents to call you first for their next below market value deal as well? So I'm going to be talking through some tips which will just get you on their list to call. Or do you find that when you're talking to an estate agent and you say you're an investor and they can't wait to get off the phone to you? This doesn't happen with everybody, let's be honest, but there are certainly some agents that have had bad experiences with investors. There's always an investor that will walk into the estate agent's office or phone them up as current times and sort of say, I'm here to buy 50 properties this year, and they kind of go, yeah, whatever. So I think just positioning yourself that you're professional and you're going to do what you say. How I started and why. I'd seen how fantastic property could be, and I was sort of desperate to learn a bit more. So I think one of the early memories I have when I was about 18 was my best friend moved into a property that she was very lucky her dad bought for her, big 3-bed property in Kent for about 60,000. So this was going back to about 2007 or 8, I think. Yeah, I think it was that time. Anyway, and in order to help her pay her dad back, because he lent her the money, but he said, I want you to pay me back, she started renting out rooms. And this just fascinated me. I'd never heard of this HMO strategy or anything, but it's just like a room let. And she was charging sort of £400. She had a 3-bedroom house. she would move into the tiniest bedroom that was, and she rented out the other 2 bedrooms, and she made £800 a month, and that more than paid her dad back what he wanted a month, and it paid all the bills as well. So I think it was a case of that kind of went in. I thought, well, that's really an interesting strategy. So a little while after that, I actually bought a book, and I bought this book just after we had bought our own home. So my husband and I had, or now my husband was then my boyfriend, we bought our first house in a little village called Woodchurch, which is in Kent. And unbeknown to us, we kind of got it at a really good price. We knew nothing about property at the time. All we knew is it was time to move in together. It was a lovely little village where we moved to. I was brought up there, so I knew it very well. And we had a garden in which we were able to create a garage and some parking with the house. House was very dated, so we just naturally did it up and wanted to make it nice to live in. But what I realized was, after buying this book, that actually, you could get this house revalued, and then you could release equity, or actually at the time we were discussing selling it and moving up the ladder quite quickly, like most people do. You buy your first book, you sell it, you move up. But after I bought this book, I was opened up to this strategy of this refinance and releasing equity and then buying an investment property. And I do remember going home to my poor, then boyfriend, saying, I've just read this book, it's incredible, and I wouldn't be a book that I'd recommend at all, because it was all hype and no real action until about the last 3 pages, which was very frustrating reading it. But it was like, property is brilliant, property is amazing, it makes you all this money, and I was just like glued. But going, come on then, tell me how. So it certainly wouldn't be one I recommended, but at the time there was no training around whatsoever. So this was just like a real eye-opener to me. And so anyway, Peter, my boyfriend.
Louise, obviously my question was going to be, what was the book? I'm not going to ask that question, but the only thing I'd say is that, despite the fact you wouldn't recommend it, it sort of had the desired effect, though, didn't it? Because it made you think about the investment and investing and how best to use your money. And then I know you talked about the last 3 pages being about action, but it sort of did make a difference. So it sort of did a good job, really, I suppose.
Well, it did. And do you know what was actually the most poignant moment in that book? Because I think it was like on the last paragraph, it said something like, I can't remember, 95 or 98% of people that read this book won't take any action whatsoever. And that hit a nerve with me. I am going to take action. I'm going to damn well do this. I'm not going to be one of those 95% that are not going to take action. So yeah, you're totally right, Chris. It was that, the hype in my brain. And I suppose I'm quite easy to sell to. My husband always laugh. I'm always the one at the county fair at the steaming mop store, or the world's most sharpest knife.
Everyone's been there.
So I'm easy to sell to like that. But it wouldn't be one that I would highly recommend, not in this day and age when there is a lot of very good books out there. But yeah, that last paragraph made me go, right, I'm going to take some action on this. And I went home, and Peter, bless him, he just said to me, look, this worries the hell out of me, so I'm not going to stop you doing it. Do what you need to do, but please don't tell me anything, because I'll just worry. So you can imagine the responsibility on my shoulders from that. And I also kind of battled with friends and family, thinking I've gone completely crazy. I'm sure there are people out there that resonate with that as well. At the time when I first started out saying, right, I'm going to invest in property. In fact, it got to the stage that I had so many sort of negative comments, I suppose. And we'd only just bought our first home, and this wasn't what people do. They sell that and they get a bigger house, or they move up the property ladder themselves, whereas we were saying, well, actually we're happy to stay here for a bit longer, but we're going to buy this investment property. And we weren't particularly old at the time, and I just had, I think family is very much comes from a place of worry and, oh my goodness, what are you doing? And friends were just thought I'd gone completely bonkers. But I learned very quickly that I was very passionate about property, and I think that was just with our own property. I loved seeing it transform, and this was our space and we could do what we wanted to it. And I then found quite quickly that I love finding deals as well, and I like communicating with people, and the adrenaline that you get from finding those deals. Certainly one of the passions that I had about property. And it does, get it right. It has life-changing results. It can give you security, and cash flow and a secure future for the kids. So what other investment can give you all that? I mean, it's just such an incredible asset, isn't it? It like I say, cash flow, security. You can jump out of your job if you wish to. You've got equity for the future. It kind of ticks all the boxes.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
Yeah.
I like the analogy of property being like a bad haircut, in that even if you buy poorly, it's a bit like a bad haircut. With enough time, it sorts itself out. So a bad haircut will grow out.
Very forgiving.
Yeah, but obviously you don't really want to get into the bad haircut but it is very forgiving. And it is fantastic for all the reasons that you outlined. I think that's why we all invest in property, Louise.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I suppose while it's in the forefront of my mind, if you're buying for cash flow, now you say that if you're starting out and you've got good cash flow, you can hopefully, ride most markets. But yeah, absolutely. If it can be very forgiving. And if you're out there buying your first deal, and I know lots of people procrastinate buying their first deal because it's not perfect, just do it. It's never going to be perfect. The first one's never going to be perfect. Just go out there and get going. And property is forgiving, but I'm not saying take unnecessary risks, but it is forgiving. So I started investing 15 years ago now. Was when we actually bought our first little, it was a 1-bed flat. So from 2015 onwards, I think property for me was very much a hobby for a long time. It was something I did in the background. It was something I always did like it was a really naughty habit, and I didn't want to tell anyone, which sounds ridiculous, but probably there will be people that resonate with that. I kept it a secret from a lot of people. I got a bit of stick at work from people that would just sort of laugh at me and going, "You're just crazy," but eventually saw this was working, and then would kind of go, "So how do you do this?" So that was a sort of an interesting time as well. But from say 2015, I thought, right, that's it. I'm really, really enjoying doing this property thing. So I'm going to start educating myself. And I came across a first course. It was somebody in Bristol. It was a bit of an online year-long course where we spoke sort of every other week, and there was lots of online content. And I grew as a person in that year, like unbelievably. So my first networking meeting, so this lady, I didn't even know networking existed. My job's not corporate. I will tell you about it in a minute, but networking was certainly not something that came easy to me. And I went with the encouragement of this mentor, go to these PIN meetings, and our local one was in Maidstone because I'm based in Kent. It was a good hour's drive. Got myself ready, went over there. I was rushing around from work, so I didn't get there till it sort of was just about to start. And I sort of opened these double doors and just absolutely froze in terror, literally. And quickly marched back out, closed the door, and went to the double doors to go home. And I just stopped and sort of had to have a word with myself. Say, right, come and go back in and just go and talk. And I remember just walking out saying, right, if you can talk to 2 people, you can be proud of yourself and go home. Literally dared myself to go there and talk. But there must have been sort of 85, 90 people in this room. It's always a well-attended meeting. And I remember sort of walking in there, and the girl at the desk was very good, and she could obviously see I was a bit nervous, and made me feel very welcome. And then I started talking to these people, and I was just, well, they're talking about property, and I've got nobody to talk about property to, because my poor mum was bored to tears of it, and my husband certainly was. Although he's now very much part of the business. At the time, he's like, "Oh, you shut up about houses." So from there I was hooked, and I would make myself go to 3-4 meetings a month, and that was just it was an incredible journey, and building that network of everybody as well. So
I do know somebody who went to their first meeting and got as far as the car park and didn't actually get out of their car.
Really? Oh, worse than me then. I'm not.
So you did well, yeah. So it's quite frightening, and also I think sometimes you think everybody else knows everybody, everybody, and you're a bit of an outsider of it.
When you're first starting, and I was talking to somebody last week who said they went to their first virtual meeting like this one tonight, and she said, I almost chickened out of just pressing the button to go on there. I was so nervous. And you don't really associate the virtual meetings being like that, do you? Because you can hide behind the camera and everything. But yeah, she was so proud she'd got through her first virtual meeting. So we're all different comfort level, but for me, that's grown. That's been part of my growth, and now I've done a lot of speaking on the different networking circuits. And I was doing a Facebook Live a few weeks ago, and I was doing an interview for. I got a feature coming out in the YPN as well. So it just grows and escalates, and it's fantastic. I always said property is, for me, certainly. It is a massive knowledge, and I love it, and I'm passionate about it, but the self-development behind it as well has just been absolutely immense. So yeah, and I continued educating myself as part of the Simon Zucchi's Mastermind 25 group in 2018. We got portfolio single lets, we had done buy to sell, but now I think since 2018 we've been very much concentrating on very high-end HMO model, which I will go into. And I do now work alongside my husband, bless him, who's very much on board with us now. And he is a builder. He's actually a ground worker by trade. When he left school, he went to work for a very large family business in groundworks, but it wasn't something he was particularly passionate about. He wasn't overly passionate about being a builder either, but he kind of got forced into it initially. Kind of, so I couldn't find any builders, will you come and help me? And now we very much work side by side, which is fantastic.
You wore him down.
Well
done.
Not in a bad way, hopefully.
No.
So a bit about me. As I say, I've been investing 15 years, but I did build this property business while working full time. And these are my little kiddies. So these are very much part of my daily life. This is Thomas, who's 10 now, and my little girl Robin, who's 6. And this is where I work. So I'm very lucky that I work on a farm with about 2,000 acres, and it is set in the glorious Sussex countryside. And it's a part of the country and a job that I don't wish to leave, certainly not at the moment. I've been there now 20 years, so pretty much most of my working life. I am kind of, although I'm working for somebody, I'm very much sort of my own boss. I've got a team of people that work under me, and it's just, the kids love it there. They come riding during lockdown, so they've been very, very lucky. So it's just something that is worked very well alongside the business as well, because actually it's almost like my day job is my downtime, and then property is like that, right, let's go get them, and that. But I have, it does mean working hard, does mean getting up before the kids in the morning to get some of the admin stuff down, and sitting there in the evenings either working or speaking, or it's a big juggle, but it's something I'm really enjoying all aspects at the moment. This is some of the properties we've got in our portfolio here. So all of these were bought through estate agents. HMOs among them are this one with the yellow there, the one below here, and the one on the right hand side there. So again, myth. Have you ever heard people say that you can't get deals through estate agents? Only direct to vendor deals stack. I got fed up with hearing this, because like, hang on, I'm doing it. I'm buying loads of property through estate agents and getting really good deals. So it was a bit of a strange thing I kept hearing. So I thought, I'm going to go and tell people you can get deals out of estate agents. You need to have lots of money to start up in property. Well, you don't overly need to have lots of money to start up in property. There are lots of methods to get going. There are lots of different strategies you can have. And you don't need to have pots. If you're a homeowner, you can release some equity, and that might just be enough to get yourself started. But we very much work with investors now. We give them a very good return on their money. And actually, so now, it's a business that can scale up, because we're not just relying on our own pot. And other people, I hear this all the time as well, I can't find deals in my area. there's deals in every area. In every area, there's going to be repossessions, there's going to be divorces, there's going to be people immigrating. You know, there's these things happen in all areas. So kind of like a bit of these 4 things together for me, and I'm sure for most of you as well. Mindset is huge. If you tell yourself you can't find the deals, if you tell yourself you can't do it, if that project's too big, that's too complicated, chances are it will be. Get your mindset in the right place. And it's something that I work on continuously, because property is and can be quite stressful. You know, we're talking large sums of money, we're talking about hard work. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. So constantly work on your mindset to keep you sane and to keep you going in the right direction. And actually, if you can do these things, then you will get the results. So the correct actions, your mindset gets you going every morning, making sure you're doing the right tasks. For me, that means concentrating on the income generating tasks. We work, or I've got VAs. I've also got a personal assistant that I've taken on in this country in the last 6 months, and she's been fantastic. All those 20-minute tasks that you just, you know, somebody else can do. I know people have told me to do that for years, and I've only just really, I'm going to say, we've used VAs for certain tasks, but having somebody actually that's just down the road from me, somebody I can trust, somebody that I can actually give my bank details to or a card to go and do those sort of and it's just absolutely transformed, and allowed me more time to, as I say, do those income generating tasks, which has been fantastic. Consistency, absolutely, you've got to be consistent. You've got to be phoning people up, you've got to be keeping those relationships, you've got to be keeping in touch with estate agents, and that will all equal results. Mindset, finding deals is hard, but they are out there. It's just a numbers game. And remember that you are helping others with this as well, because if somebody needs to sell their property quickly, the chances are there's an emotional reason attached to that. So just remember that, in terms of, you can be helping others. You can be helping that estate agent by giving them a really smooth ride. You know, you're going to do as you say. And in terms of the vendor, again, do as you say. And if you're going to buy their property swiftly, then the chances are the price isn't the most important thing to them. Your correct actions, building relationships, getting on the phone, speaking to more agents. I'll go through this in a minute as well, just by calling instead of walking around the streets, which I know we've probably all got used to doing in the last year anyway, but certainly by calling people, you can get through a lot more agents. But be respectful of their time. And I think also when they're very, very busy, a quick phone call sometimes a bit, say respectful of their time, but it's also, I need to respect my time. Obviously I work full time. I've got the kids as well. So when I say I do work at the weekends a bit, so I do have a couple of days off during the week, which really helps me with things like phone calls. But again, it's be respectful of their time. You're not going to hold them up for ages, but also for you as well. Building a traffic light system. So this was like a little system that I devised, was basically to get to the best agent in each office. And I think, like I touched on earlier, if you've got an estate agent who's perhaps had a bad experience with an investor who's gone in there and said, I'm going to buy 10 properties this month, you know, and I'm this and I'm that, and then they don't, or they let them down, or they say they're going to buy something and then it doesn't go through. They may have had a bit of a bad experience, but you know, if they're really not interested, just put them in the red box. What you want to aim for is having everybody you're speaking to in the green box. And these are the most helpful people. These are the people you're going to start to build those relationships with. Take notes on the call. They might say to you, we've got a property that it might be falling out of bed. If you think that might be falling through, that's when you want to be on the phone to them almost on a daily basis without making a complete pest of yourself, and obviously see how the conversation's going. But they're the sort of properties you can pick up before they hit Rightmove again, and they could be where there's the sweet spot and there's a deal, or it could be a case of, we're going to view this property, we've not had the instruction yet, but actually this sounds like it could be something that's really useful. by you showing your interest, and you've already built that, had those conversations with them, then they may even be able to use your conversation to get that instruction. Well, we've got somebody who is really chomping at the bit for this property, so you can help them in that way as well. But the idea is literally having a list of every single estate agent in your area where you're looking for property, and you're going to phone them all up on a weekly or fortnightly basis. And if you can get everybody in your green box, then you've got a much better chance of building those relationships. When you're out on the viewing, spend time to get to know the estate agent. So don't just necessarily look at the property and completely ignore the agent who's standing on the doorstep. Talk to them, and it could be silly things like, a dog walk past and they go, oh, it makes a fuss. Oh, you like dogs? Oh, we've got a dog, and just those sort of little human contacts. And perhaps, do you invest in property? Well, no, but I'd like to. Well, do you want me to show how we do this? This is we will buy something and we'll add value to it, and then we may refinance it. And if it's somebody that's young and they're interested, then again, it's just building that rapport with them. But never act like you know more than the estate agent, because they they don't like that. But I have to say, do you know what? Most estate agents know more about the market than you will anyway. So just be respectful of that, because they're in the office picking the phone up, and they've got people, in normal times at home picking the phone up. And they would have people coming in and asking, what's available. So they know who is in the market. Is it your first time buyers? Is it your investors? Is it your second time movers? And pick their brains on that, because you can know, where's the market at? Is it rising? Is it falling? Is it stagnant? Are you busy? Is it really slow at the moment? And you can get, by talking to a few agents, this is a question you can ask on the phone as well, you will know exactly what your market's doing in the area, which is very useful for you to know as an investor. So internet searches, set up your alerts. Hopefully everyone watching this has got your alerts set up on Rightmove, Zoopla. They could come straight to your inbox. Search oldest first. So I'm going to show you a case study of a property we done, which was literally just finding it on the oldest first search bar on Rightmove. Properties that are on with more than one agent. This can show that somebody's very motivated. If you drive past and they've got multiple boards up, then it can show that they are a motivated seller. They just want to get it sold. Properties that need refurbishing, I think that's obvious. But if you've got property that is dated, you've got a chance to add value there. If you've got dated photos, so say you've got, I don't know, blossom on the tree, or it's a lovely sunny summer's day in the photograph, but actually we're in the middle of winter and there's snow on the ground, then chances are that property's been on the market for a long time. You don't just need to look at the listing history. They may have taken it off and put it back on again. So the pictures can just show how long it's been up for as well. And you can get a VA to do the above. We use Upwork. We get VAs from Upwork, and most of them are Philippine based, and it's sort of £3-4, and they are absolutely fantastic. If you get a good VA, it can really free up your time, and you can give them work to do at 9 o'clock at night, and when you wake up in the morning, it's all done. It's just like a little magic wand. They're absolutely fantastic. Calling the estate agent. So set out your criteria, try and be as exact as possible. They do like a box to tick, an estate agent. Have you got any properties that need work? Again, it's fairly obvious, but when you're calling an estate agent, you kind of need to slow them down and rifle through their mental filing cabinet, because they just go, no, we haven't got anything. No. Then if you ask these questions, they go, oh, I suppose we have got that property over there. So it's just asking the questions individually. It will just help for them to remind them of what they've got and what stock they've got. If you had any sales that are falling through that I could potentially rescue, anything with short leases, again, it's a brilliant strategy. Know what you're doing, but you can pick up really good bargain properties with short leases. Have you got any vendors that need a speedy sale? touched on it earlier. You know, people get divorced, people want to emigrate, people, you know, there's so many different reasons. It could even be they found their absolute dream home and they don't want to lose it, so they can afford to take a hit on the property they've got already. And do you have any empty properties? I think with empty properties, it is certainly, I've always found sort of September, October, these can be really good finds because the vendors are getting nervous about heating them through the winter. In this day and age, we're having to pay council tax on an empty property as well. You're going to have to heat them. You know, they're vulnerable to being broken into as well. So empty properties can sometimes be a motivated vendor behind them. So position yourself well, have proof of funds ready. I said earlier, we work with investors a lot of the time now. So if we're going to have our proof of funds coming from an investor's bank account, then we will let them know, because otherwise they're like, who's that? So have that ready to show them. Have a decision in principle, work with your lender, work with your broker. And even if you don't have an actual decision or a agreement, I think they call it as well, agreement in principle, then certainly have the discussions with your broker, the type of property you want to buy, how you're going to buy it. And if you know which way, you know, it's little things, you will just stand out with the estate agent when you're speaking to them about the deal and negotiating that, you know, I'm going to do as I'm saying, as I say, I've got all of this in place. We're going to be, you know, using Shawbrook as a lender, or, you know, whoever you may have had those discussions with. But if you've got that broker, again, that sort of drops into the conversation. I've been working with my broker, we're ready to go, these are my proof of funds. And also have a solicitor that's already instructed, because one of the ways to get property from a motivated seller, and I've always found, is you can literally, if you're viewing it in the morning and you say, right, this is my offer, and I can instruct my solicitor this afternoon if this offer's agreed, to somebody that's motivated, that is incredibly music to their ears. You know, we want to get this house sold, and they are so on the ball, they're even going to phone their solicitor this afternoon. Now, that's not going to work every time, but again, it just positions you as somebody, right, we're going to do as we say, we want this property and we're going to be bang on this. And these are our solicitor's details. So have that conversation with the solicitor previously. Always back up your offers in writing. I think this just makes you more professional. If you've got, yes, you can verbally pick up the phone, or even if you're brave enough to offer at the property while you're there. I think most people want to go away and do their summers first, but I think just writing that down as well is always just makes you stand out. Say you can complete in 6 to 8 weeks. Again, conversation you need to have with your broker. As we were saying earlier, I think at times, these particular times at the moment, things are going to take longer to go through. But if you've spoken to your broker, say, right, what is the quickest we could complete on this? We've got everything in place, providing, you know, there's not too much that comes up with the surveys or the searches or something. What's this time frame? And then give that as your estimated time frame, because you don't want to give anyone false expectations. You don't want to say you can complete in 2 weeks, and in 2 weeks' time they're going, right, where's my money? Because the reality is, if you're using a mortgage or bridging, even with bridging, it's not, you're not going to get it through in that sort of time frame. So just say, work with your broker, what is the quickest time frame? And then once you've got that offer accepted, you need to go hell for leather. You need to be on the phone every single day chasing that in all directions to get it through in that sort of time frame. And once you've got your offer accepted, then just go and buy them a gift. So again, you will stand out. How many investors do that? Once they've got their property, it's like, yeah, thanks very much, see you later. But you've bought this property that's going to earn you thousands over your lifetime. So why not just go back in there with some beer or a bottle of champagne or a box of chocolates? Doesn't have to be very much. But who do you think they're going to think of next time there's a good deal come up, especially if you've done everything that you say?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, Louise. So is that what you've done? You've done chocolates and beer and
Beer, yeah, my last deal was beer because he was a lad, and I could tell he liked his beer. So yeah, and I did get some chocolates for the girls in the office as well.
yeah, I think it's only small little things, isn't it?
It doesn't have to be expensive, doesn't have to be much, but it just shows, and they always look so surprised as well. Oh, thank you,
Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't have to be much, but it just stands you out, from the crowd again, doesn't it?
But I've taken in like a case of beer, like like a pack of beer, and just the very the very action of doing that, and also a beer is like it's quite a big thing. So the impact in the office is noticed, even though and again it doesn't have to cost very much. But
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely right.
Yeah. Consistent phone calls again, follow up, doing what you say, being consistent. This goes back to these 4 things that I was saying, and being seen. Yes, there's a fine line of making yourself a complete nuisance, but I generally just have a bit of a joke. It's me again, but if you're on the phone, you're going to be the one that's going to pick up that deal that's fallen through. Following up on other deals, even if it's something you've seen and they said, oh, I'm sorry, somebody else has got it, follow up because it might fall through. Like, isn't it 1 out of 3 property deals will fall out of bed at some point? So follow up and do what you say. So this is one of the case studies I was going to talk to you about tonight. One of quite a few I think I've got on here. This was a really cute little cottage, 10 minutes from where we live. Everything we buy is within half an hour drive from home. Little village called Warehorn, right next to the military canal, a little country pub around the corner and the church. We actually sold this property, and I very often look at it and think, why did I not keep that one? Because it would have.
I was going to say I want to live there actually.
Do you know what? Well, you wouldn't in the condition it was, but it would have made such a stunning holiday let. But we wanted to raise some chunks of cash through flips, and this was and I had to be very strong and say, right, this is what we were going to do, but it doesn't stop me driving past and regretting selling it. So I don't sell very much, but this was one. It was on the market for offers over 200,000, and I phoned up about it, and they said, look, the phone's been ringing off the hook with this property. We're not doing any more viewings. We literally have like 18 people booked in for this weekend. So I wasn't going to compete against 18 people. So I said, thank you very much. I will, see how you get on next week. And I phoned them back and they said it was just too much work for everybody. Nobody wants it. Do you want to come and have a look? So I did, went round there. We negotiated 165 for this property. The reason being was this was the state of it inside. Now, actually, we'd started clearing it by this stage, but the story behind it was the lady had dementia, elderly lady, very sad. She'd been taken home by her son who lived up in the Midlands, so he wasn't local. He had a few businesses he was desperately trying to run while dealing with all of this. By getting to know, and I'd by this time been phoning the estate agent, getting to know them quite well, he was able to sort of share with me that the main concern for this son who was trying to deal with all this was he just didn't have time for all of this, just wanted it sold. I don't want to, I've got mum, that's it, want the house gone. So it became clear to us that he didn't want the hassle of all this clearance, which, as you can see, I mean, so we had started clearing it. This lady was a historian, and you've never seen so many books in all your life shoved in every little corner of this cottage. It was incredible. You couldn't even go up the stairs because there was even bookshelves all up the stairs. It was just incredible. And these books, she must have been one very, very intelligent lady, because my goodness, they were hard reading, some of these books, but the local bookshop certainly did well out of us that weekend. So yeah, our offer included the whole clearance of this property, which probably doesn't sound a lot because it was only a 2 up, 2 down. Well, it was actually sort of a bedroom up in the sort of loft space, bedroom below that, and then the ground floor. But there was a lot of stuff crammed in that cottage. But yeah, we bought this at 165. We refurbished it at 16,000, and we sold it literally 6 months later. We kind of did this all within 6 months for 235. So the ROI was 58%, made it far more livable. We had a couple come down from London who bought this property, who absolutely fell in love with it. We opened up the fireplace in the bedroom there. As you can see, that was lovely. Took out all those horrible grey cupboards and opened that up. Same with the kitchen. It was so dark and dingy. None of these units were here. It was just a horrible old table there. And this lovely ingle nook was just so damp. So yeah, we just completely transformed it into such a lovely little cottage. To say the couple absolutely fell in love with it. Them and their little dog. So perfect for walks around there.
It looks really lovely. But I think that surely the key to the deal was the fact that you actually understood what the vendor was trying to achieve, and helped them with the clearance. I think having cleared a house fairly recently, it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. It is a lot of work, but we'd taken that into the consideration with the costs, and the deal worked all day long, even with that clearance. We were lucky we had space for a skip out the back, and it wasn't one that we had to worry it was going to get filled up by the neighbours overnight, because this was a fairly quiet area and the neighbours were good. But
looks fabulous, by the way.
Thank you. So how did we get this? That was a follow-up, because everyone else had been put off by the amount of work. The family weren't local, certainly didn't want the hassle of clearing it, and our offer, included that house clearance. This was just up the road, this one. This was a 2-bed bungalow in a village called Woodchurch. This is actually where we lived for a while. Again, lovely little village. Came on the market at 285, and it came on the market. No, this was one that I found on the oldest first search bar on Rightmove. So I'd seen this come up on the market. It's probably 6 months previous. Didn't really take any notice, but we weren't really looking at the time. But I'd seen it come up, and then sort of, right, we're ready to get stuck into our next project. What are we going to do? And I thought, well, I'll just phone up this estate agent, because I knew the area very well. So I knew the prices, and I knew this was quite a good, I'd say quite a good price. If there was room to negotiate, this deal would stack. If there was no room to negotiate, it's not going to. So let's just phone the estate agent and see what the position the vendor are in. Well, cut a long story short, we managed to secure this for 240. Basically, for a start, the estate agent weren't local. I'd noticed that they had used that it was a probate property, and the son had used his trusty estate agent who lived an hour away, who happened to live 10 minutes away from him, but about an hour away from the property. So the estate agent was rather motivated to get it sold too, because they were fed up with having to drive out and do these viewings. So they were very keen for me to put an offer in. This was the state of inside, just your very typical dated bungalow. One of the issues for us were these horrible sort of stuck-on clad bricks things, which had completely ruined the brickwork underneath. So we had to budget for that as well. So the refurb cost was about 26,000, but we got a RICS valuation 6 months exactly after we'd purchased this property for 345. So as you can see, it had sat on Rightmove for 6 months. Nobody was interested. Nobody had negotiated. They'd not even, I don't even know if they'd had any offers on it, or whether they'd rejected some initially. I'm not too sure, but we made it livable. We rented it actually. Changed all those horrible clad tiles, the cedar board, which made it just bright and stand out. So again, this was just a deal that was there, and everyone else had missed on that oldest first search bar. And we did make our offer as professional as possible. One of the feedback that I had with this property, and I tend to find this a lot with deals, things can sometimes sit on the market for months, and then you start looking at it, and hey presto, there's someone else there. They're offering it at the same time. I don't know if that's just me or other people have found this, but we had another couple that viewed this property at the same time as us. And they actually offered £10,000 more. They offered 250, and the estate agent's feedback was the vendor didn't want to be messed around. It was coming into winter, didn't want to heat it, and they truly believed that we were going to do as we said. We'd positioned ourselves professionally. We've given them the proof of funds. We said, right, we're ready to instruct our solicitor. Just give us the word go. And so, yeah, they took a knock of an extra £10,000 to have the security that was going to sell in a quick time frame. So that's the power of being able to position yourself. And again, the agent wasn't local. So, God, excuse me. If you do see a board that is not familiar with your area, it's always worth just having a little call, because that can happen. You can have somebody who says, oh, I'd like to use you. You sold my property in 1990. Whatever. But then they're not local. They don't overly know the market. So they've struggled a little bit perhaps to value it in the first place. And they're certainly annoyed they've got to keep traveling that far out to do viewings. This was another property just up the road. This was Highlands Cottage. It was on the market for offers from 180 and 200,000. The vendor paid 210 for this property the year before. Now I saw, as soon as it came on the market, I thought this is a really good price for this little house. And I say, as property investors, I think when we see this sort of figure, we just look at the 180 bit, don't we? We don't look at the 200. We go, oh, they've said 180. That means they're going to accept 180. And you phone the estate agent up, they go, no, they want nearer the 200. You go, okay, well, let's see about that. So I had phoned up about it, and I was too late. This was a good price. It had already sold. And I was a bit gutted because I really like this little house. And so I kept in touch with them. I followed up. Now, it was obvious this vendor was very motivated because she'd accepted. I didn't know what she'd accepted the first time around, but she'd paid 210 for this property and she needed the money in her bank. It came back on the market and I happened to phone at the right time. I was following up. How's it going? He had hinted to me that it was potentially going to come back on the market again. So I'm here. I'm ready to pick it up. And yeah, we did our figures. Well, it kind of stacks at this. This is what we can afford. Take it or leave it. And she was very motivated by this stage, and we bought it for 159. So we got a cracking little deal on this property. It's now worth 265. It's probably even worth a little bit more than that. We've rented it, but we would like to do a holiday let with that. So we're going to revisit it hopefully this year. And it didn't need a thing doing to it. So we actually haven't touched it for a few years, but we're going to make it really, really lovely to have it as a holiday let, and then it will give us a really good ROI as well. So how did I secure this one? There very much was a follow-up. Again, if I'd not been on the phone at that time, that had fallen through, I would have missed that deal. And again, offered professionally, making ourselves as professional as possible in backing it up with writing everything. If somebody's motivated, that is a really good way to get through to them that you're going to do as you say. Not only have I offered on the phone, here's all that proof as well. So this was one of the HMO properties that we done. Came on the market for 310. I had a really good relationship with the estate agent with this one, and she'd taken me through. We were going around this town to several properties that day, and she showed me this one. I said, it's too much at 310. It only just come to the market as well. I said, it's not going to stack. I can tell you now it's not going to stack. But she said, come and have a look. Just come and have a look. I think she was desperate. She didn't tell me at the time, but I think she was desperate. These vendors were like really hassling her for how, when are these viewings? We need viewings. So when I had a look around, it's a perfect house, just too much money for what we want to do with it. We need to spend a lot of money on it. Anyway, the reason behind these people selling it is they want to emigrate. His wife had recently retired from the NHS, but she had a really horrible lung condition. So she struggled in UK winters with the damp. So they wanted to go to Spain. And they put this house on the market in the sort of July time. They didn't have much interest, sort of end of August, which was I was keep in touch with this estate agent. And she basically, estate agent phoned me up, I think it was about the end of August time. And she said, right, they're really motivated. What would you pay for? What stacked? What works for you? And I said 250. And that was kind of off the top of my head a little bit because I know my numbers quite well. And I remember I happened to be driving with my hands free. Just went 250 a stack. And she phoned me back about 2 minutes later and went, they've accepted. It was reduced actually for momentarily for 295, and then we bought it for the 250. And I think actually in hindsight, we may have paid a little bit too much because you shouldn't really have your first offer accepted. So I was like, oh, I could have perhaps got that for less than that. But anyway, it's stacked for us. It revalued at 360. We spent about 65 on the refurb, and it gave an ROI of 19%. So we had it as a 6-bed HMO. These top pictures was kind of how we bought it. So you can see it was a bit dated and needed a fair bit of work. We ripped it out, made the these 2 rooms. This was one big room actually at the bottom. So I made this like almost like a self-contained flat. And they were the after pictures. And this rented very quickly, as you can imagine. It was in a town that hadn't seen too many lovely HMOs like this. They were all very much your Magnolia landlord furniture in the corners. And yeah, we managed to rent that very quickly. So how did we secure this? Again, follow up. Vendors very motivated. They just wanted to go. The assurance that we could complete quickly. Again, believe the deals are there. Change your mindset to helping the vendor. We were totally helping the vendor there. And the agent, because she was desperate to sell that for them. So by doing as we said, that agent became somebody I worked with again. And this was the next property that we bought and from them. And this was a 4-bed to 6-bed HMO. We'd got a bit of a strategy going by now. This is something that we were looking to do in the area. This poor vendor had the sale fallen through twice over the course of a year, both investors. So this is what I mean about sometimes investors not always having the best name. And that may be through no fault of their own. But again, if you say you're going to buy something, you need to be 100% committed. And, you know, unless something absolutely hideous happens, then you've got to buy it. Otherwise, they're never going to work with you again. I can guarantee this estate agent never worked with those investors again. So it came back to the market at 215. Now, this had been priced a year previous, and this town had gone up in value a fair bit over that year. So I knew that was a very good price. But it was offered to us, and I like negotiating. So I got it a little bit cheaper than that at 207. This revalued at 340. I must admit, we were hoping for a little bit more with this, but the valuer didn't give it to us. So I'm hoping next time we refinance it, we'll get a bit more out of it. But it gave a final ROI of 32%, which I wasn't going to grumble about. It was your typical Victorian property when you start stripping it back. Nice roof leak up here, which you can see the state of the timbers, so that all had to be fixed. It had made this room below rather damp and dingy as well, and this was the state of the garden. It had literally been this poor old house that was just sitting empty for, I think, 2 years by the time we actually got in there. And we made it really bright and colourful. Again, wanted to do something a little bit different to the previous one. And, you know, offer something to the market that was just clean, crisp, different, trendy. It's 5 minutes from the station, it's 5 minutes from the town, and we rented this very quickly. A real good demand, and yeah, that was we've still got that one. It's fantastic little property, rents all day long. So this was the next one we done. Again, same strategy, 4-bed to 6-bed HMO. This came to the market at 235, and we bought it at 235. It wasn't your biggest bargain, but it would have sold really quickly. As luck would have it, we were still renovating the other one when this came to the market, and it's literally on the next road down. So they're almost back to back. The gardens are pretty much back to back. So when I saw it come on the market, I phoned the estate agent. It's like, when can you get us in there? And she said, well, kind of, I'm like, are you free now? Can you be free now? Because I just phoned Pete up and said, I've got our next project. You just need to cast your eye around it, and then I can offer, because it's going to go really, really quickly. It wasn't a bargain of the century, but it was just one of those properties that was going to sell quickly. So I sent him round there. He phoned me up and, yeah, it looks okay. You know, I'm happy. So I've just phoned him up and gone, right, we'll have it. So we took it off the market really quickly. So we bought it at 235. But it was in need of full refurbishment. Again, it was very dated, horrible window that was all leaking, and it was probate property. Beautiful little tree-lined street there, though. That's my dog. I just noticed him in that photo. It really, really lovely area, but again, needed lots doing to it. So we took this one completely back to brick. That was my son on site checking the progress.
That's child labour, Louise. That's not.
Oh
allowed.
yeah, we get him pushing the broom. Of course we do. Yeah, you got to do that. No, actually, a funny story. When we were first, this one might have been the other one actually. We were desperately trying to work out the floor plans, and we'd got both the kids there. And I think Robin was probably 5 at the time, and Thomas was 9. And we're like, how can we keep them entertained for an hour while we go through the things we needed to do? So we just gave them some pens, some felt tip, and some paint, and a blank wall. I said, you can paint whatever you want on that wall, because Mummy and Daddy need to go and discuss this. And we came back, and there was unicorns, and there were tractors, and there were cars, and it was almost a shame to pull it down. We knew that the wall was going to go, so it didn't matter. But it's a great way of keeping your kids occupied while you have business to discuss.
Okay.
So yeah, this one was back to brick. We kind of learned sometimes trying to patch these old Victorian properties up. I mean, yes, if they've got all those lovely original features, you don't want to be ripping them down, but these didn't have. They were just tired. Everything was rotten. And that was the finish we gave it. This is a HMO. It looks more like a service accommodation. I did wonder what we were doing having it as a HMO, but we smashed the highest room rent in this particular town with this bedroom. That was downstairs in the kitchen, and the bedrooms. So it was all back to brick. Make it look very smart, beautiful. So why do people say working with estate agents don't work? Because they don't follow up. They're not consistent with their phone calls. They don't view the deal quick enough. I think hopefully I've gone through enough tonight to kind of show that that's the case. Summary: do what you say. If you've got a viewing booked at 10, be there at 10. If they ask you for your feedback on a property, even if you don't like it, let them know, help them out. They've got a vendor to report back on. Help them out with their job. Always be polite and respectful. That goes without saying, but you know what, just remember that, because if you're polite and respectful, they want to work with you. Regular calls, again, if you're looking for deals, I can't stress that enough. You need to be there. It's the timing, isn't it? You've got to be there with the timing, picking and following up those deals that might be falling out of bed, those deals that they've just got on, and the vendor's not overly worried if it goes on Rightmove or not, if it's just sold. Be there to pick those sort of deals up. Keep to a win-win scenario. When you're doing those final increments of a negotiation, if you can get that down to just a couple of grand, let them win, because that'll leave a better taste in their mouth, and that deal is more likely to go to completion. Back up your offer with an email. I've already said that. Know your area really well. Walk the streets. Know it inside out, because then if an agent or you see a deal on Rightmove, or something comes to you and those figures, then you haven't got to go away and do hours worth of research. You just know what works, and it's certainly worked for me. So going back to the 4 things: mindset, correct action, consistency, results. It's just a formula that works. So I really struggled to find deals, and I know what it's like getting frustrated, but by following those simple systems, I've certainly built up a really good business, which has given us choices and certainly more freedom. What can I offer? I do offer a bit of one-to-one mentoring for startup. We do give you some great returns on your money and earn and learn opportunities as well. Those are my contact details. You're very welcome to get in touch with me. Follow me on Facebook. This is my business Facebook, but I've also got personal just in my name as well. So either or. Tend to put property stuff on both. And again, Instagram, or send me an email. But it would be really nice to hear from you guys. But I'm going to stop my share.
That's great. Well done, Louise. That was fantastic.
You're very welcome. Hopefully I've not gone. I'm hopefully on time, and my clock's a bit slow.
Yeah, well done, Louise. Enjoyed that very much.
Good. Hopefully there's some good tips there for you.
Yeah, can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah, I'm more than happy to.
I mean, I've been a landlord actually for 35 years, but only one single buy-to-let and then sort of run serviced accommodation in my empty nester home. But I'm selling that and I'm moving down to the West Country. So in terms of trying to look at properties, it's a bit of a nightmare because obviously I can't get there quickly. So I've just come back from 3 or 4 days, so been in a couple of areas. I think one of the things that I'm finding quite difficult, I suppose, is trying to sort of correlate back, and I'm sort of getting away from the feeling guilty factor of when you offer way below market value, that sort of price. And it's just, maybe you've got some tips as to sort of, how do you politely sort of present an offer? So for instance, I saw a bungalow on Monday, a 2-bed detached bungalow, which in the pictures didn't look to be in too bad a nick at all. But when I went in, apparently the sale had fallen through. I went in and pretty much all the furniture had then been stripped out, and it was looking, you know, a lot worse. It needs a complete rewire, redecks throughout. I've already got a prospective tenant in mind who actually is a friend of mine with a disabled daughter, and it's where they need to live. So I'm just trying to work it through. But to go back and then think, when the agent sort of said, well, it's priced with the refurbs in mind, but still probably about 30,000 at least above probably where it would stack. So yeah, how would I don't know how to sort of really pitch it back to the agent and say, you know, whatever it is I need to say.
No, that's absolutely fair enough. And I think one of the things that's really important to know, and hopefully if you've built relationships with the estate agent, it may not be, you may have just found something on Rightmove and you phone up about it, but what you really need to get to is their situation. That can be easier with the estate agents you've already built that relationship up with, because when you're just somebody new going, oh, and what's their situation? And that should be one of the first things you say on the phone call is like, where are they sitting with this? And if they say that they're selling this bungalow because they found a more expensive house in the country and they need every penny, you know, they may not say this, but you can read between the lines, they're going to need every penny they can get from that sale to make this one over here. And a little bit is reading between the lines with that, but if they are motivated, there's going to be hints there. You know, it could be probate. It could have stuck around for too long and they've just not even thought to drop the price. Suddenly you come along with an offer and they go, well, actually, it would be nice to get rid of that. And do you know what? Yeah, it's not sold at that, so let's just get rid of it. So there is that. The massive element is what position is that vendor in.
I do know what the position is, because again, just talking, I mean, again, it was the first time I'd met that agent because I hadn't been in the area. And this property, as I said, only came back on the market about 2 weeks ago, but it had previously sold before Christmas.
Yeah.
So yeah, the previous occupant is going into a home, and I think the daughter is obviously wanting to sell this property.
So if you've got lots of members of the family below her, if she's got 4 sons or, you know, 4 children, it's going to be harder because you're going to have one of them going, no, we can get full price for that. If you've got one daughter who actually is just quite happy to have that money because they want to go on holiday or, you know, do something that, again, how many siblings are involved in this? And it might be questions you feel a little bit unsure asking, but if you've had a conversation and you're trying to be a bit jolly and, oh, have you got anything else like this? And then go back to that one, you've built that rapport. You're not going straight in with these, you know, aggressive questions. And actually, if the first agent that you talk to isn't very helpful, phone back the next day, because hopefully they're out on a viewing and you'll get somebody that is more helpful. But again, getting to the crux of that situation and then positioning your offer. Well, you know,
that's the key. So for instance, if I ran my numbers and I feel that it might stack at say 200 and it's on at 240,
tell them. So you can literally describe, and I'm not saying right to the penny, but say my costs are X. You can add a bit to your refurb. They don't know what refurbishments cost. I've got 30,000 for this refurb. I'm going to be paying at least 10,000 in stamp duty. And don't be funny. We're a business. We have got to have some leeway for some profit here. This is not a hobby. This is a business. This is going to be my next home. This is my offer. I really hope I haven't offended you with that, but I am here. I am ready to go. I will instruct my solicitor the minute they say go. You know, the money is in the bank. And we will do what we say. We're not going to mess you around. We're going to do as we say, and we will get this property bought and sold in 6 weeks' time. that is almost, as good for the agent as it's going to be for the vendor's ears, because they want their fee. They don't want that dragging out for 3 months and then it all, another little thing that I would always say, I haven't pulled out on a deal. I've never pulled out on a deal. We've bought a lot of property, and so far nothing has surprised me come survey stage. We've never pulled out, and sometimes that makes them go, well, you sound like an interesting buyer. So it's just, it's kind of a little multitude of things.
Yeah, but you've got you've got the experience and the sort of case studies and things behind you, whereas effectively this potentially is going to be my second property, shall we say?
I don't know that.
Oh, I know, but I suppose, yeah, I then get the guilt feeling, I can't lie,
No, and I'm the same, and I'm not a very good liar, but I'm sure you've bought homes before that you've lived in.
Oh yeah.
So there you go. In your head, that went through. I pushed that through quickly. I've done that nice things to that house, and now so you don't have to technically lie. You're just bending the truth a little bit. We've bought property. We've always done as we say.
Yeah,
we're absolutely going to do as we say, because we're a business and we want this we want to start this refurbishment in a market, like it is at the moment. It's a bit volatile. We don't know which direction it's going to go in. You can throw those little extras in.
Yeah.
Because they, and again, to the estate agent, well, this market could suddenly crash. Actually, in a market we're in at the moment, this is another reason why I've had to build this little bit of extra safety gap, because I don't want to go under.
That's quite a good point, actually. Okay, yeah, because I need to get back to the agent probably tomorrow anyway, and it was just, sorry, my battery's about to die. I need to go and plug in.
I think Belinda's raised a really good point, in actual fact, Louise. And what I always think about is I explain to the agent in as much detail as possible, because I want the agent to then transfer that information onto the vendor. So you're sort of trying to use the agent as a conduit to the actual vendor. So the best possible, all the bits that Louise spoke about, all those bits of information, the certainty is really important. How you've come to your numbers really important, and get the agent. So the fuller your explanation, and they can also see the thought that this isn't just an off the cuff number. There's been some effort to come to a number.
Yeah, I'm not just a chancer going, I think I'm going to chance this. Exactly that, and it's positioning yourself that I've done my figures. This is what the spreadsheet says. Blame the spreadsheet. These are our numbers. I'm really sorry to offend you, but hey, this is our offer, and we will do as we say.
I think the whole thing, again, because it's quite early in my journey, I haven't got the numbers in my head necessarily to think, well, what would a complete refurb, replaster do? Removing horrible tiles. There is a bit of asbestos in the property, etc. So it's just, I don't know what those numbers, because I've not been through it before. I haven't got a case study in my own head that I can relate back to. So yeah, obviously I did say to the agent when I left that, yes, I will come back to you definitely when I've done my numbers and I've got some sort of idea of the quotations. But because I've been viewing properties the last 3 days, I haven't had a chance to sort of do that investigation yet. So that's where I'm sort of struggling just to sort of catch up, so to speak, with but I will get back to them. I'll speak to them in the morning, just say, look, I've been a bit delayed in getting the figures together, and maybe come back to you at the beginning of I will come back to you at the beginning of next week, and then maybe pitch it at them.
Yeah, don't take too long though.
No, I appreciate that, because then it would be a week on. But I'm in the process of selling my own house, and I've got a lot to do with my solicitor for that tomorrow as well. So it's just there's quite a lot on the go. I will then become a cash buyer potentially of this other property. So
there's your selling point, isn't it?
So that's the thing. And I've sown those seeds already when I spoke to when I was with the agents showing me around on Monday. So
have you exchanged on your own house sale?
Not exchanged, no. It's in fact the agent was chasing, had contacted me yesterday and said, has the surveyor been in touch to arrange that yet? And I said that no. So he was chasing, and the buyer is coming back on Saturday to measure up for various things. So I know it's progressing, and I know my solicitors sent me a load of stuff through late yesterday that I've got to complete and get back to them by end of the week. So I think the searches have already been done. So
well, good luck with all that, and please keep us updated with how that all goes. That sounds really, really good. So well done. Lisa's got a question. I'm going to just mute my microphone, and hopefully, Lisa, you'll be able to.
I don't know.
Can you hear Lisa, Louise?
No. You have to shout across the room. No.
Leave yours unmuted. I'll come over.
Sit next to each other.
Yeah,
Yes.
might as well.
Nudge over, Chris.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep. So what I wanted to know was, the HMO that was really bright.
Yeah.
What were your refurb costs for that?
Oh, yeah, I didn't go into that, did I? It was 75. 75,000.
Right. Was that a big refurb? Did you have to? Is that the one you stripped back?
We stripped it back, not as much as the second one or third one that I showed you with the back to brick pictures. It didn't go quite that far back. We've almost learned as we've gone that sometimes by taking it all out and starting again, yes, it does cost a little bit more, but for us, it's the long term. We'll hold those properties for a long time.
Yeah.
And there was little point patching over things.
Yeah.
When we could have the whole place brand new, and that was that was our own. Not everyone does that. It doesn't need to cost quite that much money. But
do you put bathrooms or shower rooms in each?
Yeah, they are all en suite.
Okay.
So that obviously adds to the cost as well.
Yeah.
They were.
So I suppose when you're looking at the properties, do you take walls down, or do you just add the shower rooms in, or how do you deal with that?
I don't think we've had to take any wall. Well, maybe we took a wall down in the kitchen to open it up in the last one, but no, we've not taken any walls down as such. Added them actually to divide rooms. Just being creative with those en suites, and where we were going to put them. So yes, we've managed to sort of squeeze them. Yeah, I mean, some of those rooms aren't massive. They're obviously above the regulations. They're to go through the licensing requirements, but a couple of them were little, and we did debate: do we do the en suites? Do we have them shared bathrooms and the rooms bigger? But the market in our area certainly demanded the en suite, so we took that decision that we'd have the slightly smaller rooms, and it's worked really well. And that colourful house has got some good communal space as well. It's got a separate lounge area where they can sit, and there's actually 2 kitchens there as well, because one of the kitchens wasn't big enough on the regulations to house everyone, so there's 2 separate kitchens where they've got seating areas as well. So it was, it all made for a good space, even though the bedrooms weren't as big as we would otherwise like them in that particular property.
And that's in Eastbourne, is it?
No,
Folkestone.
Yeah.
So what if you don't mind me asking, so what sort of would you get for a room in that sort of area?
It can range from, I mean, our rooms have all got, I think our cheapest rent is 525.
Okay.
Most are around the 450 mark. There's a lot on the 400 mark. Our cheapest room is 525. Our most expensive room is 650.
Right. Okay. That's good. That's really good, isn't it? I mean,
yeah. So you're sort of pushing the ceiling price of.
We are absolutely pushing the ceiling price.
But it's a nice finish. It's somewhere where you'd want to live, isn't it? That's the thing. It's not, And
that is the difference. And you can only do so much research somewhere, can't you? And you can talk yourself out of every area as well. I mean, this is a classic seaside town which doesn't have loads of employment. Yes, it's near the station. There's a lot of development going on the seafront there. There's you guys are just up the road at the moment, so I'm sure you're aware. But it was an area that we had confidence in. I do stick to investing half hour away from home, partly because Pete does the renovations. He doesn't want too longer commute to work, but mainly because we just didn't want our portfolio spread all over the place. That's just our personal preference. We wanted to be able to drive everywhere and be close to what we were investing in. And Ashford would be closer to us, but there is just masses of development going on there. Blocks and blocks of 1-bed flats, and it just made me a bit uneasy as to how the HMO market would pan out long term with such a flood of the market. And Folkestone was somewhere that I just thought was not too far away. There's nothing of that quality there. So it was difficult, therefore, to go, well, they're selling really quick, so that's a beautiful room. But actually, if there's nothing there, if you can take the pick of the few people that do want that sort of quality, and well, touch wood, we've not had any issues selling rooms, that's for sure.
That's really good.
Really good. Yeah.
Can you confirm something for me? Obviously, I assume that all your refurb costs actually are really for materials, because your labour is all Pete, your husband.
Well, not entirely true, because we've still got a mortgage to pay. We've still got bills to pay. We don't take that out the rent, because that's building up a pot for another deposit. As much as it irritates my husband, it's like, can we not spend that money? No, that's got to go for another house.
Yeah.
Bless him. So not saying, yes, he's bloody brilliant at what he does. He really is. He's an absolute perfectionist. Hence the houses look like they do.
Well, they're fantastic.
They do look beautiful.
He is an absolute perfectionist, and he wouldn't bodge anything. So yes, we probably spend a little bit more on things than someone else would, because they probably would go, that'll be fine, leave that. Whereas he's like, no, I'm not, I can't have that. That's not right. But actually, for us, that works, because as I say, these are houses we're keeping long term. We know them inside out. Everything is of quality in that property, and also, I mean, it shows in the maintenance afterwards.
And do you manage them yourself?
Sorry?
Do you manage them yourself?
Yeah, we do manage them ourselves. That was through more of an accident. We hadn't planned to. We used a letting agent. We found for 6 months all we had was voids and bad tenants. And that was very early on, and I was still trying to test the market, and we'd already had an offer. We had already had an offer accepted on our next one, and I started going, oh my goodness, what are we doing? This is the wrong area. So I said, right, I need to take this back to my control, just to gauge what this market's like, because I don't want to go buying all these properties and we don't have any tenants. And I found out very, very quickly that the agent wasn't getting back to people. They were booking viewings for 2 weeks' time when they had a slot in their diary. It's a fast-moving market, a HMO market. People want rooms there and then. And if yours isn't available, they'll go to that one next door. So yes, ours is of quality. There's been a lot more landlords coming in the area now, so we do have some competition, which is great. I like that, because I don't want to be the only one. I think it's good to attract nicer people in the area, full stop, which is what it's doing. So by taking back that control, I very much gauged what the market was and that demand. And we're also quite fussy who we put in our properties.
Yeah, you have to be.
Yeah, and gut feel more than anything. They can have glowing references. If you just look and go, you're not going to suit that property, and we want that community feel as well for people. I know a lot of people say, oh, they've got to be in a certain age. We don't discriminate like that. We've got one of our tenants, I think he's about 55, and he's been with us now for 3 years. I can't ever see him moving out. He just loves it. He's the nicest bloke. He's a ground worker. He comes back every night absolutely knackered, but the tenants all treat him like dad. He's like the Pied Piper. He's absolutely brilliant. So I don't have, we've got tenants that are 21, as I say. He would be our oldest at 55, and even if somebody that came in a different age bracket to that, we're very open. But it's about that sort of social element. Are they going to get on? Are they the same demographic of that tenant? But we do outsource a lot as well, because obviously we're pretty busy people. So a lot of what we do is outsourced to various people in our business as well, which is just an element of growing, isn't it? It certainly wasn't
that's right.
Well, particularly for yourself, when you're you've still got your other job which you love with the horses, etc. I'm just summarize a few bits, and because we're getting close to the end now, Louise. So for me, I really like the agent traffic light system. I hadn't seen anything like that before. I haven't heard anyone talk about anything like that before. But I thought that was a really good idea and quite simple.
Yeah.
So that was really good. I sort of liked. So for me, your whole follow up seemed to be really key to your success.
Absolutely.
I did wonder what sort of systems or how you, because it's got to work, isn't it? You've got to know, you'll be reminded to phone somebody back after 2 weeks or whatever you decided. I wonder what sort of systems you use for that.
I hate this question, Chris, because
Okay.
I always feel like I should be going, oh, I have a CRM system and I use this, I should sound all posh, but I don't. I've got a whiteboard and a concertina file and notes, post-it notes. And do you know what? It's mainly in my head. If there's a property that I want and, and it's stood out from everything else, I won't forget to phone them back over that one.
Do you know what? It doesn't really matter whether you use fancy software or you use a little notebook or post-it pads or backs of envelopes.
Yeah.
If it works, that's the key thing. It's whatever works individual.
They don't necessarily work for me because I have to go in and log on and see where I am. There's a big whiteboard in my office says, 22 Radley Park phone.
Because that's more how I work. Chris likes system, and I'm a piece of paper type of person. Yeah, exactly. But everyone works differently. I know a lot of people work on CRM systems and it works brilliantly. And if you've got lots of people that are in your business like that, we tend to, just use WhatsApp, phone calls. Pretty much WhatsApp and phone calls for any of our assistants anyway. So
no, that is whatever works, Louise. My final question is, which we can't ignore because it's so important, that your rooms and properties look absolutely beautiful. Seriously impressive. And I assume that's all your work.
It's not my work. It's Pete's.
Your good taste.
Hey?
Yeah. Got good design taste.
No, I will take some credit. So when we get something through, I'm the interior designer. I wouldn't call myself an interior designer at all. My mum is very creative and is a person like that. So I must have got an element from her at some stage. But it's taking ideas. All of the properties are slightly different. I know some people run with the same theme throughout, but that's just personal preference because I get bored and I'm like, let's try something different. That last house had a lot of dark colours on the wall, and I bought them and gave them to our decorator. And as he was putting them up, I was going, oh, good grief, what am I doing? But I thought, let's just go with this. We can always, it's only paint, we can change it if it's too dark at the end. But it worked brilliantly. And those rooms were just, we had a list.
I think if you had said that you had paid an interior designer, I would not have been surprised. It was that sort of level. So from your slides, I can remember the wooden slats by the window. I thought that was beautiful. The colours worked really well. The furnishings were really good. I think you should take some credit for it, Louise. So well done you. Not everyone can do.
Can we have the design board, please?
A lot of my ideas were just off of Pinterest.
It looked more sort of serviced accommodation, which is. I could definitely see. You could definitely rent those out as serviced accommodation. If your HMO doesn't work, you can go into smart hotels.
Yes.
It would really work with that sort of design, definitely.
Definitely. I agree.
And it's certainly different from the HMO that our daughter is living in at university. And it was the best of the bad lot, I can tell you. Well, she's not living there, she's just paying. She's not living there, she's at home, but that's another story. So
So, Louise, you've done a fantastic job. So pleased you've come along and shared your story with us tonight. It's really impressive and quite inspiring. I think Ronak said that. So very many thanks for you to come along tonight. It's fantastic.
Thank you very much.
My thanks also to Sam, as always. His lending update is absolutely fantastic. Next month we've got I'm going on a bit of a limb actually. So we've got Aluri, who's a lawyer. She's a major investor and developer, and she's looking at alternative currency, so cryptocurrencies. It's not something I know a lot about. It's going to be really, really interesting and thought-provoking, which is sort of what we need, I think, in this world at the minute. So that will be fantastic. If Aluri is half as good as Louise tonight, then we're in for a treat. So I'd like to thank you all for attending tonight. Thank you very much. Stay safe. And my thanks again to Sam and to Louise. Done a fantastic job. Thank you very much. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.